And we are live, looking at a custom view of our local yellow dwarf, aka the sun, in 193 angstroms. Looking at one small coronal hole down in the south, located right there. And sunspot 2738, exiting the Earth-facing region and degrading a little bit. So let's look at the magnetometer. Not the magnetometer, the magnetogram of the colorized variety. By the way, folks, this is our first Patreon video. If you are a patron, this one is going to be listed as a public. And for you new viewers, keep in mind these live streams are going to be going behind a paywall, and you're only going to see truncated videos on YouTube, but you will still get the information. So we encourage you to become patrons, help support the channel, help create a sustainable channel here for us. As the channel is growing, the sunspot is not. Actually, it is gaining a little bit of complexity in the leading edge there. So you see that green and blue portion? This is actually picking up in activity a little bit, at least in magnetic complexity, despite shrinking in size. Let's just look at the intensity gram here. And if you don't put the dates in each time here, it'll give you that error, folks. All right, so we don't see any umbra forming in that leading portion there. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day today, as the Earth is still not out of the range of coronal mass ejections and solar flares associated with that sunspot. Now, it's been downgraded to an alpha class, and let's just keep an eye on it today, see if it gets upgraded to a beta class. Let's look at one further view here in 304 angstroms to see filaments. And there's that view. Do see a little bit of flare-like activity crackling out of that sunspot near that leading edge. So again, something to watch throughout the day today. And keep in mind, this view is only the last 7 hours or so. Date stamps at the bottom. Before we continue, I'd like to note the veloshop.net, premier cycling shop of the Lehigh Valley and the official bike shop of the Lehigh Valley Velodrome. Run by owner Becky Quinn, 22-year pro cyclist, also endorsed by 3-time world champion and gold medalist in the Olympics, Marty Nothstein. Veloshop.net. If you're thinking about buying a bike, get started shopping here. If you need some clothing, some parts, I'm about to get some new tires, actually, because I need a set of tires for my time trial bike. So, veloshop.net for all your cycling needs. We're going to look at the real-time solar wind here, as we typically do around this time. Going up a little early today because we had a bunch of work to do. So there's the real-time solar wind data. We see a shifting phi angle. BT is at about 3.5. And we got a negative BZ here at negative 2.4. Solar wind density has dropped down since yesterday to 6.24 protons per cubic centimeter. And we see a small uptick in the solar wind speed to 379 kilometers per second. There's your KP index, up to 2 at a nice green level. Here's your space weather enthusiast dashboard. And we haven't seen the Enlil forecast here for a couple days, so let's bring this up and do a quick analysis. So we do have a predicted coronal hole wind stream here We're looking for an uptick in the density in about 2 days. And there's that Enlil prediction. Here are your aurora forecasts. Pretty self-explanatory. Next, we'll look at your magnetosphere movies. Let's just look at the pressure today, as I have about 900 tabs open. And we see a fairly low pressure here, as solar wind speed is pretty weak. So a fairly normal situation here, slight incoming charge situation, as we see a little more density in the magnetotail than on the bow shock. Moving on to geospace ground perturbations. First, we'll look at the poles. And we'll let that play through for you, as this data is not accessible. If you don't view it when it's on the site, you won't be able to access it yet. And this data courtesy of University of Michigan Geospace Model. And this is based on a lot of measurements. If you want to read about it, just go to the page. We have links in the description. Just click on details, and you'll click on Space Weather Modeling Framework, and it'll explain how it's derived. Here's a view from the globe. And we see our standard delta B perturbations here in this North Pole and in this North Pole. And we see the South Pole headed this way toward Western Australia. And let's move on to the GOES magnetometer. There's the data for that for the past 3 days or so. Here's the F2 ionosphere layer. Let me just refresh this one. There's how it's changed in the past few minutes. And it's looking quite normal. Next, we're going to look at the gong, too. And let's look at a couple different views here, as we've got this sunspot in an interesting location. Let's see how it's affecting the fields. For those of you not familiar with these views here, let me draw some stuff in for you. This is the B field. And these are the Z fields. There's the north one. Here's the south one. And those field lines you see there are a result of these fields. You live on this field. The interplanetary magnetic field is part of the B field being the field that goes through a magnet, this magnet being the sun. Anyway, there's that view. And we can see the sunspot's effects on the B field. And the way it's pulling down that North Pole associated green portion there. And let's look at it from the top view ecliptic plane field plot to give you a 90-degree rotated view of the same thing. We hope this increases your understanding of how the sun works, folks. That's why we cover it every day. Plus, we're interested in the magnetic environment, as if you don't watch this stuff, it could change without any warning. So we will be approaching another polarity current sheet crossing here. To show you the last frame, we've got another at least 48 hours until we're back in the South Pole oriented fields. Now keep in mind, with magnetism, these things can change with absolutely no warning, and that this data is 1 hour and 35 minutes old. Here's the X-ray environment, 3-day plot and a 6-hour plot. Excuse me. And we see one fairly decent B flare happening late yesterday. Since then, pretty low levels of activity, no significant flares. Next, I would direct you to spaceweatherlive.com. There's a nice article here about solar cycle 25 and the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. We recommend you read it if you're not familiar with this stuff, and maybe even if you are. We will leave links in the description. Keep in mind they will not be there until after the live stream. 10.7 centimeter radio flux is monitored because it's a good proxy for sunspot number. And we've actually been seeing higher than predicted values. Look at the divergence here. And that's a good sign, folks, because you don't want to see a really deep solar minimum, as it's bad for your health. Next, we'll look at earthquakes. And let's make sure it's refreshed. And then we're going to switch to a satellite view to make it more pleasing to the eye. Speaking of more pleasing to the eye, pardon the truncated screen, folks. I completely forgot to change my screen resolution. So I've done this before and it didn't crash the stream. Let's try to do it now. Watch your bars vanish before your very eyes. First time I've done that in quite a while. All right. There we go. Hopefully that fixed your view, folks. And let's get the epic pen out of the way and look at the last day of earthquakes. We're only going to cover four plus magnitude earthquakes here. And there we go. That's a good enough map. So we see a 4.0 in Russia. Get this sized up correctly for you. There we are. That'll probably be good enough. So we see a 2.7 in Puerto Rico. I just said I'm going to only cover 4s, and then I cover a 2.7. What's wrong with me? All right. We're having Zoom problems. Please bear with us during these technical difficulties. We will attempt to make it worth your while. There we go. Now we can read it. All right. So, largest quake in California in quite a while. There's a 4.1 at the geysers. Here's a 4.5 at Japan. And that one's at depth. So, portending larger earthquakes at the surface. So we see a little downtick in earthquakes here since yesterday. We do see a 5.3 at the Solomon Islands. Kind of in between Australia and Fiji there. 4.7 off Central America, off the west coast of Central America there. 4.6 in Chile. And we've got 2 South Americas. All right. See a 4.3 in Greece. 4.7 in Brazil at a very deep depth. And quite far into the continent also. So that's a questionable quake there. That's a very interesting one. Here's the regional information. And there have been other quakes there in the past, folks. So that's a risk factor for a larger quake at the surface. For those of you not aware, when we see a quake below 100 kilometers depth, that is a harbinger of another quake at the surface at a higher magnitude. Here's a 4.5 at Guatemala, 4.7 at Alaska. That's got kind of an odd spot also. And that's the quakes. Go to windy.com and look at the pressure maps. First, we're going to look at the jet stream real quick, as it's pretty meridionally flowing right now. There's the high-level winds over the U.S. This is the 9,000-meter winds. And let's switch to pressure here, just to see if Brazil is in store for a larger quake. No significant anomalous low pressure systems there right now. Let's just play this through a little bit, see the forecast. The pressure is going to drop there in Brazil, so I would be on alert for a larger quake. Let's return this to the current time and look at Oceania. So we do see a pretty heavy low pressure system there south of the Kamchatka Peninsula, north of Japan. There's a pretty powerful low south of Alaska right there. Two anticyclones in the Pacific Ocean. Some more anticyclones near Antarctica. Powerful low right over Newfoundland. And a bunch of dry air over Scandinavia. Dry anticyclone. Enjoy those clear skies, Scandinavia. All right, let me just bring out the chat here. Since it'll never be now again, I want to know who's joined the chat. We did broadcast a little earlier than usual today, so let's see who's joined us. Thanks for tuning in, Dustin Polar Bear. I hope your situation improves, Dustin. Good morning, Kalo Jan. Welcome to the live chat. That's as small as she'll get, folks. All right. Let's continue on here as I have a lot of tabs open. There we go. We're going to look at volcanoes. So first we've got Mount Ibu producing a 7,000-foot ash plume there. Bromo with a 10,000-foot ash plume. Dacono, 7,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl, ongoing emissions. Revenador, 16,000-foot plume there. And Sabancaya, continuous emission. Small downtick from yesterday in volcanoes. Let's move on. And this is just me streaming myself on Patreon to make sure that it works. So if you're not a patron yet, please become one. Some of these features are going to be behind a paywall eventually, and these live feeds are going to be one of them. Next, we invite you to check out the Space Weather Prediction Center at NOAA. It's going to give you a whole lot of information that you may not know yet. If you're a new viewer, it's going to tell you all about the magnetosphere, the ionosphere, the different layers, and so on. We'll leave links, as we have a bunch of links to list in today's video. We will put them up after the live stream. Next, we invite you to check out Zooniverse.org. Now, I've made 122 classifications to date, and in a couple different projects here. We're going to talk about the Galaxy Zoo, as this channel has obvious implications. We need human beings to classify some of these galaxies. Just a few million more to go. And so we're going to do one before your very eyes here. Because this is some real science. This is Zooniverse.org is the largest citizen science project in the world. And if you set yourself a login, you may even find yourself published in an astronomy journal. Is there a bar through this one? We're going to say a weak bar. Is there any sign of a spiral arm pattern? I'm going to say yes, because there may be one spiral arm there, so I'm going to say tight. One arm. Is there a bulge? Our regular viewers are aware that this is the That's What She Said section. However, our viewership is pretty small right now. It is about 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. So we're going to say a large bulge. And really, there's two bulges here. We're going to say merging, because this one looks like it actually is a merging pair of galaxies. Small satellite galaxy with a much bigger elliptical. And do we see features? Well, I'm going to say a lens or arc, irregular, a dust lane, and overlap. So that was an interesting one. Will you be the citizen scientist to classify this galaxy? Head to zooniverse.org and be that citizen scientist. Here's a US Doppler radar. And let me just refresh that to make sure it's the most current data, as show prep took a while today. This Doppler weather map, Doppler radar map, compliments of AccuWeather.com. And for that, we thank you. Anyway, there's that information. And if you don't know how to read a Doppler radar map, I don't know what to tell you. Check out smAsho.org, as we are looking to make your donations tax deductible by the end of the year. So that's one of the main goals here. And let me just quickly read the mission, which is 1, to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics. 2, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects. To connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. That's one of the things on this channel and on Patreon and every place else that we post our stuff. 4, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, doing things like growing tomatoes indoors over the winter. Watch our earlier videos. You'll see stuff about it. 5, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including sciences such as spectroscopy, chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, longevity, cosmology, biology, magnetohydrodynamics, geology, etc. 6, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is. And lastly, 7, to not be ossified in our beliefs and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. Just because physics and astronomy are going to be rewritten does not mean we want to see physicists and astronomers thrown out of their field. That's not what we want to see at all. We want to see a smooth transition, and we want to see all the old science applied to the new observations. So that's what we're doing, folks. It's serious. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Since it'll never be now again, let's go to the next tab. Terrible result: airborne plastic particles blanket remote mountains. A terrible pollution article. A secluded mountain thought to be free of plastic has a lot of plastic on a scale comparable to a major city such as Paris. Not good, folks. Not good. We'll leave links to the article that we found at phys.org. I don't know if you're aware of what happened on tax day, but Notre Dame Cathedral went up in flames. There it is. Pretty much the whole thing's on fire, folks, and it's heavily damaged. Most of the priceless religious relics were removed, but here's a long article on Forbes.com describing this hellscape in Paris, which is basically an anti-government protest, folks. Basically an anti-government protest. We'll leave links to this article also. Did you pay your taxes yesterday? I hope not. Just kidding, folks. We don't want anybody to go to jail. So yeah, I hope you paid your taxes, and I hope you paid your taxes on your cryptocurrency also. I'm sure we have a lot of viewers that have crypto. If you didn't, I wouldn't tell anybody, but here are the taxable scenarios: sale of crypto to fiat, sale of crypto for another crypto, exchange of crypto for an item or service, capital gains, mining ordinary income and capital gains, fork income and airdrops, I don't even know what that means, and crypto denominated compensation. Yes, if any of those things happen, I hope you paid your taxes, because you know the government is really, really efficient and skilled at allocating resources. Pardon the sarcasm, folks. Check this one out. Turns out the nearest star has a planet in the habitable zone, Proxima Centauri. We'll leave links to this article also, located at universetoday.com. Next, I want to talk about something a little farther away, and I talk about it all the time, like I'm beating a dead horse. Deneb. Well, what's up with Deneb? Well, it's kind of an important star. The tail of the swan, perhaps you've heard of it. One of the most reliable cosmic ray sources in the sky. Not coincidentally, Deneb is not only the North Pole, the North Celestial Pole, that is, at the other end of the precessional cycle, but many, many ancient monolithic sites are oriented toward this star. Maybe it's a little more important than folks realize, and we're trying to inform them. So it's very easy to spot the tail of the swan located right there. And let's move on, because we don't want this stream to be too long. Here are the locations of your planets. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Let's advance it 1 week as this firearm conflagration. There we go. All right. Let's advance this 1 week. And there's where we'll be in 1 week. If you're not familiar with inthesky.org, that's in-the-sky.org, I highly recommend it. You can get your star chart for where you're located. Now, I was looking at Hercules here for a minute. Let me just turn the view around. And I lost my north-south orientation here. Trying to zoom out. All right, let's just turn the sky. I've drawn in the ecliptic. So there's the southern sky. If you look in the northeastern sky, Cygnus is way up there, way up high right now. Anyway, I just wanted to show you where that's located. If you want to set up your location, just go to inthesky.org and put in your location, and you'll be able to see what stars are up above your head right now. Stars, constellations. You can even draw in things like the boundaries for the constellations. So, super good site, in-the-sky.org. Now, we're going to unpack parts of this article. Excuse me. This is the andrewcollins.com article about Cygnus X3 and the cosmic ray question. We're going to unpack little parts of this each day for a while here. And because we're looking for extra things to study, cosmological things. So, thus, in order to determine the point sources of cosmic rays, it is better to examine neutral particles, as we know, which retain their primary trajectory across the galaxy and when traveling at relativistic speeds, will also retain their unique signature. Now, signets, referring to cosmic ray particles as signets, is because of Cygnus X3. However, what I stumbled upon is another cosmic ray source with a unique signature. So we're going to look at it. It's called Hercules X1. And on that note, we're going to switch to the Neil Gehrels Swift Observatory, the BAT, the Burst Alert Telescope Hard X-ray Transient Monitor. We'll leave links to this also, folks. We've got hundreds of radio sources here, and there's a lot of data to tie together to other phenomenon that may be more important and more obvious and more affecting of your daily life than you may realize, as things that are hundreds of millions of light years away are hitting the Earth with radio signals right now. So here are the transients for Cygnus X3. And I would note, see this area right here? I've never seen it do that before. Cygnus X3, known as Deneb, the massive X-ray binary. A massive radio source rotating around a Wolf-Rayet star, vacuuming plasma up like a cosmic-sized shop vac. One of these jets is pointed right at the Earth, folks. If it's pointed right at the Earth, it's right at the sun. What are the effects? Well, measurable cosmic rays, first of all. Now, the energy levels of these cosmic rays from this object are so ridiculously high that they're measured in the hundreds of tera electron volts. So we'll leave links to this specific one also. And we're going to be looking at this daily because this extremely dense series of transients being measured is a little spooky. As you see, its activity always drops down to a low state before it goes into a high state. So we're going to be studying this a lot more in depth in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. Now let's look at something else. Here's Hercules X1, yes. Also available on that same page, Neil Garrell Swift Observatory, Swift Bat Hard X-ray Transient Monitor. So there are the transients for Hercules X1. And we're going to be doing more research on this. Just had an uptick, a large uptick in X-rays from the past 5 days. Check it out. There it is. So don't say we never show you some weird stuff that nobody else is covering on this channel, folks. Let's skip this song as it's a rerun. And here's Gem Cutter, available at soundclick.com/GoldenCatProductions. A link also available in the description below this video. Here's a paper about the deterministic chaos and the X-ray variability of Hercules X1. We'll leave links to this paper also. Interesting about the X-ray variability, not the cosmic ray influence. Keep in mind, X-rays are electromagnetic radiation and cosmic rays are actual particles, mainly consisting of protons. We're not going to get into the weeds about explaining that right now, as this video is getting pretty long in the tooth. Next, I would recommend you check out Becoming Borealis, Neil Thompson's Electric Universe page. Check this picture out. A fantastic multi-year picture of a solar nova called V838 Monoceratus. And check out the progression of this thing. Blow that up. A perfect example of a nova shell coming out of a star. Now, in the mid-90s, I thought all stars were considered variable stars. And nowadays, some folks seem to think that all stars are not variable stars and that they just go through this boring life of fusion cores and all kinds of other cartoonish things. But you can see a perfect example of the dust shell and the Z field. So the reason we're able to see into this portion right here is because that's where the Z field is located, and it's blasting a jet out like this. It's invisible because it's not allowing any matter to condense on it. And you can see it growing as the nova spreads out, and the magnetic field is transmitted by the plasma. So it's a great, great example here. 2 years of how a nova shell expands from a variable star. And by the way, all stars are variable stars. Next, we're going to look at hey, that's the same thing, isn't it? Anyway, check out becomingborealis.com. Highly recommended. And again, this is the host of one of our officially endorsed channels here, The Electric View. We're looking at getting Neil on our show and to get on Neil's show. So let's close this thing out. But first, we're going to look at some more custom views here of just today. And we got 7 full hours. We're going to do the 171 angstroms view, as we like the way it shows the magnetic looping. And it looks bright and cheery, like a nice, bright, non-solar minimum star. And we're on a blue screen. By the way, we are looking to get a green screen set up very soon, folks, at which point I will be able to appear in every video, and you'll be able to see the serious and or non-serious expression on my face. So there's a lot of stuff in the works, a lot of stuff going on this year in 2019, and I highly recommend that you stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot of videos coming out also. If anybody's got any questions, comments, concerns, now would be a good time. There's the northern view. There's the southern view, complete with date stamps. And there's the entire view. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. We've got a slowed down version of a song here. Let's fade that out. And some of this music available at soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. Some of it available on SoundCloud. And we'll put a link in the description for that account also. Thanks again, Patreons. Thanks, donors of all sorts. Whether you're donating on PayPal, whether you're a patron on Patreon, or whether you're donating to my 2019 cycling campaign. Any questions, concerns, insider information, stories you'd like to cover, anything like that, please email me at smashomash@gmail.com. Also, if you're looking to sponsor the cycling team, that's the veloshop.net cycling team. Same deal. Email me at smashomash.com. We've got athletes going to the Olympics this next year, so it could be a pretty serious piece of ad space for your business. That said, thanks again for tuning in. We are out of here, and we'll probably be doing it a little later this afternoon once again to cover some other stuff. So keep an eye on the channel. It's not only active, it's growing massively. So since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.